excited to take a look at these teams and kind of see how things are going to play out from here.
We see two very interesting teams, both having the same restricted in Yveltal. Yveltal is an incredibly good Pokemon in this format that has an incredibly high skill floor to use. Being able to really deal with Calorexes because of its dark typing is incredibly good because those Pokemon are incredibly prevalent. However, it loses to stuff like Zacian or Xerneas. So being able to back up your team with Pokemon like we have the Entei on J-Thank's side, and we have the speed control from the Regieleki, being able to fire off the Electro Webs. And then on Riverpasta's side, we have a Sun Core with a Stakataka being able to adapt to counter Trick Rooms with Torkoal and Stakataka. And we see Torkoal and Venusaur lead against an Entei and a Gastrodon. Pretty interesting dynamic here. The Venusaur really wants to be able to attack into that Gastrodon to just take it out. However, if it stays on the field, the Sun boosted Sacred Fire from the Entei should just insta-kill this Venusaur as long as it's not holding a Focus Sash. And we could see a Rindo Berry on the Gastrodon, allowing it to live one Grass Move, being able to fire off an Earth Power into the Torkoal. We could also just see a double up into the Gastrodon on this turn with a Solar Beam from the Torkoal. And we just see the Gastrodon switch out into the Yveltal as a Sleep Powder misses the Entei, and we see a Focus Sash come out from the Venusaur. And unfortunately, it will not matter because Sacred Fire gets the burn as Torkoal goes for an Earth Power into the Entei. Immediate tempo switch into the side of Scary with that Sacred Fire burn into the Focus Sash Venusaur. And the Yveltal coming out unscathed. We see the opposing Yveltal hit the field, likely trying to go for the Sucker Punch into the Entei in order to pick up the KO. This Entei, or this Torkoal, really in an interesting situation. I believe, if I remember correctly from Swiss, this is a Specs Torkoal, meaning it's locked into that Earth Power. So if they just switch out the Entei into the Gastrodon, we see a situation where a Sucker Punch will fail from the Yveltal because the Gastrodon did not attack, and the Earth Power from Torkoal won't do as much, being able to go for something like an Earth Power of their own into the Torkoal slot. This Torkoal also not being able to target the Yveltal with Earth Power because of its flying typing. And we see another Sacred Fire burn going into the opposing Yveltal as the Entei holds on. And it's actually not Choice Specs. It goes for a Heat Wave, picking up the KO on Entei. And we have an unfortunate miss on the opposing Yveltal as it went for Snarl, lowering the attack power of the Torkoal and the Yveltal. As
that Entei's name definitely not living up to it, winning both of the 50-50s.
Nope. That Entei winning both 50-50s, getting both of its burns and both of its Sacred Fires. As we see the Landorus switch in, taking a Snarl from the Yveltal. Typically, Landorus Incarnate is a special attacker. So that special attack drop from Snarl is going to cause a lot of problems. Likely just a standard Sheer Force set. No reason to run a Sand Force set without Sand. However, it could be a physical adaptation to that. Although there is less physical options that Landorus gets in order to abuse sheer power. But I imagine an Earth Power coming out from the Landorus will still be able to pick up a KO onto something like that Regieleki, as it does Volt Switch out, picking up the KO onto the Torkoal as it goes for a Volt Switch. And we do see it be the physical variant, however, it does not matter. The Rock Slide not connecting with the Gastrodon and not dealing enough damage or getting a flinch onto the Yveltal, as we see the two GGs come out in chat, knowing it's over. Snarl missing the Gastrodon. This Gastrodon really good at avoiding attacks. And we see just Snarl spam into an Ice Beam from the Gastrodon, picking up the KO on Yveltal. Another clean 3-0 win from the side of Scary into Riverpasta.
Yeah, definitely the misses kind of being the story on the side of River there. Obviously, a bit of a downhill game from the very start, but hates when the game is just kind of kicking you while you're down. Entei wins its 50-50s. You're missing it every chance you have.
Yeah. It definitely is the display of sometimes you play the game of Pokemon, and Pokemon has decided that you are losing that game due to your miss of a sleep powder, your miss of and getting the burn from the Sacred Fire. Although the burn from the Sacred Fire being more unlikely than the miss from the Sleep Powder, because Sleep Powder is a 75% accurate, as we did not see a wide lens. We actually saw the Focus Sash on the Venusaur, being able to go for it as long as it doesn't get burned. It can stick around on the field. However, with that knowledge now, you can double into the Venusaur slot, assuring a KO, even if you do get, even if it don't get the burn with the Sacred Fire from the Entei. It will be interesting to see how Riverpasta adapts to the lead of Entei Gastrodon. You could potentially see just the Landorus leading alongside something like Suicune being able to put a lot of pressure onto the Entei. And we actually see Venusaur and Stakataka lead against an Entei and a Rillaboom. Interesting to see Stakataka on Riverpasta's team. I think it kind of shows a little bit more of the Trick Room side. And being able to go for that and then have Torkoal and Venusaur in the back, being able to abuse the sun after the Trick Room turns have ended. Torkoal being an amazing Pokemon under Trick Room because it's incredibly slow, being able to fire off sun-boosted full HP eruptions, and Stakataka being incredibly bulky, so much so that it's going to be incredibly difficult to pick up the KO on it, as we do see the Fake Out connect into it and a Stomping Tantrum go into it, being only able to do about 70% to it in total. And we see the Sleep Powder actually connect this time into the Entei. However, Stakataka obviously flinching, not being able to go for the Trick Room. That is one of the downsides of using Stakataka without something like an Indeedee to back it up with either Follow Me and the power of Psychic Terrain blocking priority moves, or using something like Mimikyu to set your Trick Room, which is immune to the effects of Fake Out because it's a Ghost type. With this adaptation, though, we see a little bit more of an offensive force coming from Riverpasta as they switch the Stakataka into the Torkoal, being able to get that sun up, and Venusaur being able to move before everything as it fires off an Earth Power into the Entei as it has its guaranteed turn of sleep. And we see the Rillaboom switch out into the Gastrodon. The interesting thing about this grassy terrain is that it actually is boosting Venusaur's grass type attacks, because Venusaur is touching the ground. It does get the bonus from grassy terrain, which not only will heal it, but also be able to increase its the power of its grass type attacks. So we see the Grass Knot connect into the Gastrodon, not seeing a Rindo Berry, picking up the one-hit KO as an Earth Power goes into the Yveltal, dealing 0 damage. Entei switching out and then back in. It does still have, it's already done its one turn of sleep, so it will not have to be asleep on this turn again, as we see a Sleep Powder connect into the Yveltal, and it gets its first guaranteed turn of sleep there as another Earth Power connects into the Entei. An incredible showing from Riverpasta here, just a complete domination of this game with the power, being able to actually hit those Sleep Powders, kind of a little bit of retribution for missing the Snarl and the Sleep Powder and getting burned twice by the Sacred Fire in the last game, as we see a Fake Out connect into the Venusaur, and the Torkoal going for a Heat Wave, picking up the one-hit KO on this Rillaboom. Torkoal showing that it is an incredibly powerful Pokemon, and really being able to take this game out of the hands of Scary, as we see an Eruption fire off, picking up the final KO there onto the Yveltal. A clean 4-0 victory from Riverpasta going into this game 3.
Yeah, a completely different story from our first game. You know, everything just, like you said, sometimes everything falls into place. We did see a slight change in strategy from Scary, but sometimes things just work out for you.
They really do. I think Riverpasta showing the adaptation to lead the Stakataka to threaten something like Trick Room going up, and then being able to use that as just a bluff piece in order to make them target that instead of the Venusaur, being able to hold on to that Venusaur's Focus Sash the entire game, shows incredible skill with the team and how they adapt to their opponent. We'll have to see how it plays out if they go for the same lead, if Scary can call that bluff and attack into the Venusaur and risk the stack attacker going for something like Trick Room, or if they split it up and they attack the Venusaur while dealing with the stack attacker with something like a Fake Out and leading something like Rillaboom and Yveltal, showing the ability to go for the Fake Out into the stack attacker, as well as threatening the Venusaur offensively with something like the with something like the Oblivion Wing. Interesting to note is that Rillaboom is actually immune to Sleep Powder, meaning it is a pretty good answer to the Venusaur as long as it's not in the sun. If it's in the sun, it becomes a lot harder to deal with, as you're also contesting with the Torkoal on the field, likely. However, we see two completely different leads from any game. We see the Rillaboom Entei lead from Scary, and we see the Landorus Suicune lead from Riverpasta. Suicune's actually seen a little bit of an uptick in usage as of late. A couple top players have started using it on the ladder, making some pretty interesting teams with it. It's an incredibly bulky Tailwind Pokemon, being able to pretty much get that off 100% of the time without having to worry about having to run like a Focus Sash, using your Focus Sash on that slot. As we see the Fake Out go into the Landorus as a Sacred Fire connects as well. And we do see the Tailwind come out from the Suicune. The Rock Slide actually showed that this Landorus could be a physical set, or it could be mixed in the sense that it's running Rock Slide in order to use a powerful Rock type attack, and we could still see an Earth Power come out from this Landorus into the Entei, which will almost certainly pick up a KO, but an incredible adaptation from Riverpasta's side, foregoing a bluff with Trick Room and foregoing a Sun lead in order to have a incredibly dominant Landorus under the effects of Tailwind. We see the Grassy Glide go into the Suicune, not picking up the KO, and we see the Sludge Bomb connect into the Rillaboom, proving my assumption of it being a more mixed set because of the more powerful special moves that Landorus has in order to use Sheer Force. And we see an Icy Wind come out from the Gastrodon, Icy Wind come out from the Suicune into the Gastrodon, lowering its speed tier by 1. Not really going to matter. Gastrodon's the slowest thing in the game that we've currently seen. So it moving last doesn't really change a lot. I was imagine that was meant to connect into a switch into something like the Yveltal. As we see a Snarl come out, missing the Yveltal again as the Gastrodon gets its special attack lowered. And we actually see the Yveltal switch in on Riverpasta's side, taking the place of the Landorus as the Suicune hangs on from the Oblivion Wing. We'll probably see a Suicune go for another Snarl here. And we'll see if it actually connects into the Yveltal. That'll be huge if it does. We actually see two Snarls come out here, one from the Yveltal and one from the Suicune, both connecting onto both Pokemon, slowly wearing them down and being able to really weaken the opposing team. As we see a Yawn come out from the Gastrodon, showing that it does not need to use its special attack stat to still have an impact on this game. Riverpasta is put into a situation where they either have to switch out their Yveltal in order to keep it awake, or accept the fact that Yveltal is going to go to sleep this turn and attempt to deal as much damage onto something as possible. We just do see the switch into the Venusaur as Entei hits the field, and Suicune gets to go for another Tailwind as Yawn is doubled into the slot. Another 50-50 on Riverpasta's side, where they have to go for something, either have to attack or risk the Venusaur going to sleep thanks to the Yawn. We could also see Venusaur attempt to go for a Sleep Powder into the Entei slot in order to protect the rest of its team. But we see the Gastrodon switch out into the Yveltal, and we do see Riverpasta accepting the fact that Venusaur is going to go to sleep by Earth Powering into the Entei, and a Scald coming out from Suicune picking up the kill on the Entei. It is currently 4v2 in the favor of Riverpasta, allowing Riverpasta to get this kind of advantage. However, that Venusaur is on its only on its first turn of sleep guaranteed going into this turn on this turn, so they could either switch out the Venusaur and attempt to keep it for later, or accept the fact that Venusaur is going to go down and you sack it to something like an Oblivion Wing from the Yveltal and you go for an Icy Wind. And we actually do see the switch into the opposing Yveltal as a Snarl comes out, hitting both Pokemon again, getting those special attack drops on the Gastrodon and the Yveltal as the Oblivion Wing connects, doing considerably less damage into the Yveltal and the Ice Beam as well. Getting the freeze on the opposing Yveltal. That is a very, very unlucky thing on the side of Riverpasta. Freeze is one of the hardest statuses to work through. It does not have an end turn. However, it also doesn't have a guaranteed turn like Sleep does. So if Yveltal thaws out immediately, we'll be in a good position. However, this Yveltal could stay frozen for the rest of this game. However, we do see the Snarls coming out from the Suicune, slowly wearing down the opposing team and being able to weaken them even further and further, as we do see the Suicune go down to an Earth Power from this Gastron. This Gastron showing its worth with the power of Earth Power Ice Beam coverage, as well as being able to yawn and force switches or force Pokemon asleep. We currently have 2 Pokemon incapacitated on Riverpasta's side, as we do see the Venusaur hit the field next to the Yveltal in a very interesting predicament where this Landorus is being threatened by not really being able to KO this Gastron. So I'm imagining Riverpasta is trying to pick up a KO on this Gastron to get it out of this game, so that way his Landorus can hit the field, as we do see the Yveltal and Venusaur stay incapacitated thanks to freeze and sleep respectively. As we do see the Venusaur wake up and go for the Gastron, picking up the KO into the Gastron, freeing up the Landorus to hit the field on the following turn. And we see the Riverpasta's Yveltal stay frozen ever since it's got frozen, showing how strong freeze is of a condition. However, also how annoying freeze is of a condition, not having an end turn and not really having a reliable way to break out of freeze. I imagine this game goes in favor of Riverpasta at this point, Yveltal being at -2 special attack, having to rely on Snarl or Oblivion Wing to deal with a physical attacking Landorus at this point, probably just going to be going for something like its Rock Slide in order to potentially get flinches into the Yveltal, is just doing as much damage as possible. The Yveltal, once again, is frozen. We do see a foul play come out from the Yveltal, dealing about 60% to the Landorus. Unfortunately, that's not going to be enough to pick up the KO, and this game has essentially been wrapped up as long as the Riverpasta connects with their Rock Slide. They actually go for the Protect, attempting to get the Yveltal thawed, and we do see the Yveltal thaw finally as they go for the Sucker Punch, trying to pick up the KO on the Landorus. And now they have an interesting predicament where do they play the Sucker Punch game of, I think you're going to go for it, I'm going to go for a failed Protect again so my Yveltal can chip you down, or do they go for something like an Oblivion Wing into Landorus to read that, and they decide not to go for the Sucker Punch, and Rock Slide will pick up the KO against Yveltal. Riverpasta showing extreme adaptation to Scary's game plan